Welcome to Grit and Gravitas with Ann and Annie, bringing you savvy, spirited stories of success. We're excited to deliver 30 minutes of inspiration, impact, and goodness. We'll be bringing you guests and friends from around the country who have very special work and personal journeys. I'm Ann Dieter Gallagher, your co-host with Annie Carnathan, and this is Grit and Gravitas. Let's go! Welcome to Grit and Gravitas in the podcast studio, Annie Carnathan. We have a super special guest this afternoon.
We do.
And it's all things money, which, that can be a challenge, especially for women to talk about. We have Jean Chatzky with us, who everyone listening will absolutely, her reputation precedes her. Jean, you were financial advisor on the Today Show.
Financial editor for 25 years.
Editor.
25. That's where I became a massive fangirl because my mom watched the Today Show and I watched Jean.
Yes. And best-selling New York Times author, Wall Street Journal. So you and you have your own financial media company. Is that correct? Her Money Media. So we're big fans on Instagram and Twitter. I threw out some tweets just before our recording. But it's kind of cool. We're in April recording. It's Financial Literacy Month. And honestly, especially for me as a woman business owner, I'm always desperate for more information and more tips. And you've devoted a career really to money and women in money. Can you give us a quick introduction? Like why did you devote, why is your passion just helping more people and more women understand money and how to make the best use of it?
Because if you don't know how to manage your money, then you really don't have a lot of control over your life, right? Money is, I don't think money is many of the things that people say. I don't think it's the root of all evil. I don't think it's the key to happiness. I think it's a tool that we all need to use wisely in order to get the things that we as individuals want out of our lives. And if you don't know how to do that, then you are missing just like a basic component of knowledge that's going to help you get through life. And nobody teaches you this. I got into personal finance journalism because I really didn't know how to manage my own money. And I wanted to learn. I learned on the job and stuck with it because I thought that it was really interesting and fascinating. And I liked the improvements that I saw that I was able to make in my own life. But I also think that human behavior when it comes to money is just really fun to watch.
And here's what I think's counterintuitive, Jean, and I've always thought as a salesman, right? You're taught from a very, very young age, what don't we talk about? We don't talk about money. We don't talk about what a house cost, what the neighbor's car cost. We don't talk about what people make. It's just almost taboo because you're really taught not to talk about it. And I think that's counterintuitive to absolutely it being a fundamental part of wellness.
Yeah. Well, you hit on a couple of things there. I mean, fortunately, Gen Z is changing the taboo for all of us. They are talking about it. Just like they're talking about mental health, they are talking about money. We also have Zillow and a million car websites that tell us exactly what your neighbor paid for that car. So it doesn't have to be a mystery anymore.
Right.
But financial wellness has only in the last couple of years come into its own and really earned its place on the stage with when employers think about how are we making sure that our teams are well these days. They don't just think about physical wellness. They think about mental wellness and they think about financial wellness because they have a lot of research that shows that money is the thing that stresses people out more than anything else. And if you are stressed out about your money, you're missing work. You're not performing when you're there.
Right.
You can't focus. It causes physical ailments. So they have an invested interest in helping us stay healthy, and that's great.
Great points.
It is great, and Jean, it's always to me been female centric, right? It's her money.
Her money.
And our
Well, let me tell you why I did that. And I hope that all your listeners, because I know you're talking to women as well. I hope that everybody will go to hermoney.com like you guys did and just subscribe to our newsletters. We publish them twice a week. They're free. Sign up for the Her Money podcast. We're talking to you. And the reason that we're talking to you is I go out and I do a lot of speeches about money. I give a lot of talks. I moderate a lot of conferences. And I've been in a lot of rooms where it is hundreds, if not thousands, of women. And I've also been in a lot of rooms where it's hundreds, if not thousands, of women and men. And the atmosphere is very different. When you're in a room with women, we feel comfortable asking all of our questions. We feel comfortable telling our stories. It's not that JP Morgan Chase is a good stock for men and not a good stock for women. If it's a good stock, it's a good stock, right? And we should look at buying it, or index funds or ETFs. It's that we need to be able to receive the information in a way that talks to us. So that's what Her Money is.
No, I love it. I went through your most recent podcast. I loved, honestly, every topic on there. The one with talking about money with your girlfriends. And there's some statistics out there. Our podcast guest we just recorded prior is CEO of a credit union that's almost ready to crest $1 billion. So she had great insights. A lot of our questions was, how did you rise to that executive level in a banking and finance realm that largely most young women choosing college majors weren't going into? Now, I do think, and you can confirm this, that the pendulum's swinging a little bit the other way, that women are considering that a noble career, something they want to pursue. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing a movement towards STEM careers, but we're also seeing more women than men in college. For every 100 men that graduated college last year, 132 women graduated, and that's not slowing. So we're just seeing more women across the board, but also more women acknowledge the fact that we understand we're going to have to take care of ourselves financially, and that there is nothing wrong with going after a good paycheck.
Well, I am so glad to hear you say that. And there's a lot of conversation. We've spoken to a lot of, women's groups and business groups where people say, well, I'm not about the money. Well, to your point, it is, that profoundly affects your life decisions, your ability to take care of your family, your ability to take care of your parents, the extended family, to do things. You have freedom for much more decision making when you have a discretionary income or you've earned. One of your podcasts was about women in retirement and the gender pay gap, which does affect retirement earnings. But I have 3 sons, and I remember in the early days of telling them, negotiate on day one before you take your first job, because that where you come in at profoundly affects your future. You're not going to jump 50,000 every job you get, but you start at the highest level possible, because that's your compounding interest. There's where you're starting.
You're so right. You're so right. And we've got a lot of research that, again, shows that 2 things happen. Coming out of college, still more men negotiate for that first salary than women. And every salary, as you said, keys off that salary. But even in situations where there is a level playing field, where there's pay transparency in companies and they set a level bar to begin with. In our 30s, when women start to have children, many of us step back and either we soft pedal the ambition a little bit. We feel like, okay, well, we can continue to work, but maybe we don't want to put in the hours. Our wages start to stagnate, and the growth in that salary gap gets bigger over time, and that we really have to work to put a stop to that. We need better child care policies in this country. It's, great to see an executive order come out of the White House just recently, but we need better caregiving policies in general, because as we saw during the pandemic, when there is a need for someone to take a step back and to run the household and take care of the kids and take care of the older parents, it is more likely to be the woman.
Right.
Jean, and I don't want to boil the ocean here, but I went into sales, and to this day still commission sales, because I didn't want anyone to be able to put a value on me. I didn't want to negotiate. I wanted to wake up and say, the day is yours, go seize it, and what are you worth? And I wanted to determine that. And so what is it about women where there isn't, what is it, right? The confidence? Is it the stigma of being aggressive? I'm ferocious when it comes to pay. And so what is that gap?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think what you do, what you have done for yourself in going out, you're basically negotiating, I think, on a daily basis. That is hard for women to do. It is hard for me to do. And ambition is a word with a lot of mixed messages when it comes to women. I think it's getting better again, but for a long time, people looked at women who were ambitious in the workforce and said, she's a bitch. She is, right. And I don't know if I could say that on your show. I can say it online.
You can.
Yes. And really did not look at her kindly. And that's, that's unfortunate. We had to soft pedal the ambition in order for people in the workforce to like us enough to promote us in many cases. Right. So, again, I think these things are changing. They are changing at the speed of molasses, unfortunately. But it's, it is, we still give mixed messages to girls and to boys.
Well, I'm glad to hear all of this. And I think I started my business at age 40. So I've told this story many times. And I off-ramped, to your earlier point, for 15 years to raise 3 sons, and worked part-time for my prior employer, because I negotiated that they should not waste, all the years that they had invested in me to grow me, quote unquote, to do what I could do. But then bursting onto the workforce at age 40 and go to the bank and try to get an executive line of credit with 15 years of stay-at-home experience, So part of our motive for doing the podcast is to, number one, shorten the learning curves of women. So I constantly invest in women and say, we want you to be ambitious, and this is how you can, encouraging them, to your point, encouraging them to negotiate for a higher salary, to understand their value, to make the ask. Don't wait for someone to say, I think you are worth $150,000. That day will not come. So I think with my maturity comes hopefully a little more wisdom that I can say, don't do what I did back then. Raise your hand, sign up, march into the C-suite, HR, whatever that is, and for me, I had to really self-educate on money and investing, because I don't love talking about it, because I don't know nearly, what you do, Jean, and even you, Annie. But I think with wisdom, we can help the younger women say, do A, B, and C to really educate yourself and raise your hand.
Yeah. And look, when it comes to the money, when it comes to investing for retirement, right? Saving for retirement and investing for retirement, it is not rocket science. It is a series of good habits often repeated.
Right.
It's earning
Right.
a decent living, saving a significant part of your paycheck, right? We've all got to be aiming to save at least 15% of whatever it is we're bringing in. That can include matching dollars that you
Right.
get from an employer. You got to put it to work. I've been running an investing club online with my friend Karen Feinerman from CNBC. She's a professional investor. And every other Monday night, we are teaching hundreds of women how to pick stocks. Which is not to say that you should be picking stocks for your retirement portfolio. You want
Right.
you want a portfolio of index funds that's fully diversified. I think that's great. But a lot of us want to know, how do we pick the next great stock?
Exactly.
How do we understand how these companies work? And so if that's something that your listeners are interested in, our program's called Investing Fix.
So would they find that online, Jean?
Yeah,
Would they,
it's
okay.
investingfix.com.
Okay.
With 2 X's, FIXX. And we're having a great time, actually, and our portfolio is beating the market, which is nice to
Awesome.
see. But our members, we tee up a couple of investments each week, and we run it like an investment club. We don't pool assets, but our
Right.
members vote on which investments get added to the portfolio, and they have chosen really well. And I know that a lot of them are buying it for their own accounts as well too, so
Right.
they're doing okay. But after you invest, you've got to make sure you've got enough protection in place for yourself and your financial life, so that a disaster, a big one or a small one, can't take it all away from you. And that's insurance and an estate plan. And then I think, and I know you guys believe, that you have to find some way to give back that is meaningful to you.
Right.
And to anybody who ever argues, you shouldn't really be focused on earning a lot of money. My answer is always, if you earn well, then you can give generously.
No, I love that point. I often say, look around whatever community you live in. Look at the names on the buildings, either on the college campuses, the YWCAs. Those are all from individuals that really, rose to the top ranks of their industry. To your point, we're able to give back significantly and really lift a lot of other people up as they rose.
One of your amazing gifts, Jean, is that you have I feel like you're having a conversation with me every time. It's very simple communication, and that's not easy around the complexity of money. And I think you hit on the fact that we have to pick smart people that know more than we do about it. And so what are a couple key advocates, specifically women, can find early in their career to help guide them? Is it things online? Is it your show? Of course. But how do we just put the right people around us?
Yeah, I think every woman should be looking for, if not an official mentor, then a woman at work that she can talk to about things like her career and how to move her career along as she wants, but also the benefits program. What should I be doing with my 401k? What should I be doing with my healthcare choices? Do I want this HSA or do I want you want to have women at work that you can talk to about all of these things. Men can do this as well, but I find it's helpful to have a woman or several women that you can have these conversations with. I also think it's really important just to read.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get a lot of email newsletters. In addition to my own, I read the 10-point daily digest from the Wall Street Journal, and it's almost as good as reading the paper itself, right? You get a ton of information in a very short period of time. But it doesn't have to be that. USA Today has a great money section. Pick a couple of things, and then at some point you're going to want a financial advisor. It may not be when you're young and when you're starting to build assets, and if you're contributing enough to your retirement portfolio, that may be fine. But as you start building assets and as you start thinking about the different things that you want to accomplish with your life, whether we're talking about home ownership or college for your kids or a second house or retirement eventually, you're going to want to sit down with a smart person who can look at your life holistically, somebody who's a fiduciary who has to keep your best interests in mind legally, and can help you make a plan so that you can plot out how to get from where you are today to where you want to be.
That's multivitamins right there. So we have
Yes.
business vitamins, Jean. We want people to take 1 or 2 things from each 30 minutes and try to apply that or learn that. And that was a big old multivitamin. And that's the genius of Jean in a lot of ways, is how simple it is to take basic steps. And she's talking about lifestyle age-ins, right? Different parts of your life as you age and grow. And it does change, and you have to be willing to change. But mentors, fabulous.
Right. And these are things that each of us can do no matter what age. So even if you're 18, you're planning to go to college. I'm surprised at how many young people aren't asking the big enough question, like, will the major I choose, will I be able to find a job before I sign up for these loans, which are going to be an anchor to you in your first 10 years, maybe longer, God forbid, in your career.
Well, look at the medical field.
Yeah. I mean,
how long those loans go.
Important.
Right.
It's, I think the choice of school is we don't think about it in the right way. Kids are saddled with so much in the way of student loan debt, and a lot of it you could have worked around if you picked a different school, if you cast a wide net when you were applying to schools, so that you would make sure that you ended up with at least a couple on the list that wanted to have you enough that they would give you some money to attend. Those schools are out there. It's just we get stuck on this concept of a dream school and applying early, and we don't do ourselves a lot of favors financially.
No, I totally
And
agree.
I just hear, a sort of a game plan for today, a game plan for, let's say, 3 to 5 years, and then a game plan for how we're aging in like 10 years from now, but the nimbleness and the flexibility to be able to keep learning and growing for what's next.
Yeah, and you brought up the taking care of our older parents. I mean, that is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
We are living now in Philadelphia, not because we're taking care of my mother. She's actually very well, but she's here. And we are, my husband and I, now in Philadelphia because she's here. And so somebody needed to be closer. We were ready to leave the suburbs and head to a city. So it made sense. It made sense for us. But financially, you really need to have the conversations with your parents while they're well about what they want and whether they're situated to pay for what they want, or if you're going to be asked to step in. Because when you get hit with that trifecta, right, the same thing hits us all in our 60s or late 50s. We're thinking about college for our kids. We're thinking about retirement for ourselves. And then our parents may need our help. And we can get loans for college. We can push off our own retirements in many cases. If our parents need help, we're going to help them. And so that's the factor where we really have to try to avoid all surprises.
Whew, she is talking to me, Ann.
I know.
She's talking directly.
And part of that, you said, we talked earlier about negotiating on the way up. The benefit. So I've lived through, caring for aging parents. I'm one of 4 children. So we were able, 2 of my brothers live in Philadelphia, and my sister and I are in Harrisburg. We were able to share, I don't want to use the word burden, but responsibility.
Sure.
But as your parents age, my mother lived to 94, my father to 90, there was a lot going on, not only in the medical decisions, but having starting my business and making sure that it was healthy gave me the emotional bandwidth to deal with other things. If I was worried that, our children's education wasn't being paid, or there was, I was moving buckets around, I wouldn't have been able to really just invest and throw myself into what my parents really needed at that stage in life. So again, another reason to be very prudent as you map out your own future.
Yes, 100%.
So quick fun fact, Jean, as I was, so I own a PR firm, and I was doing a deep dive in your research and like signing up for everything you have and following and retweeting and
Thank you for all of
commenting.
that.
Yes, that's the
Sisters doing it for themselves.
that's the beauty of social media. I can find immediate knowledge from your entire career. But so your husband,
Yes, is from Harrisburg.
yes, Elliot, and
Crazy.
his mother. I didn't even tell Annie this. His mother. I didn't connect the dots. So she ran Romper Room.
Oh, yes.
Miss Marcia. Do you know, you're not old enough, Annie, to do that.
Yes, I am. I'm Jean's age.
We religiously watched her with her mirror looking in there. I can see my little sister there, you know, Miss Marcia and the Doobies. And oh my word, I couldn't believe. So she was with WHTM at Channel 27, right in our
was.
backyard.
Yeah.
6 degrees. 6 degrees. And it was there for 30 years, and I didn't know it till a couple months ago. So incredible. Just like that, time is up, Jean. Jean has a train to catch, so she's on her way to 30th Street.
So quick, before we let you go, for our listeners, like we can't get enough of this conversation. I encourage every young person, female, male, whatever, to sign up. Where is the best way to find you, Jean?
Hermoney.com, or wherever you get your podcasts, you can subscribe to the Her Money podcast.
That's great. Thank you for pouring your life into making sure the rest of us understand money, respect money,
That's
but
right.
really, you know, are blessed to learn more about it and use it, you know, in the best ways possible.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
What a privilege, Jean. Thank you so much.
Have a high gear day.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. It's our desire that these stories will bring energy, ideas, and fresh thinking that you can use today. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram, and have a high gear day.